A lot of us seem to take certain things about Ralsei for granted. It's hard not to be distracted by how likable this character is. He's nice, shy, has funny interactions, and frankly, he's adorable, but there are a few things about him that have been on my mind. I'm certainly not the first to say that he has some suspicious qualities. He's quite a mysterious figure, and I have a feeling we're going to learn a lot about this guy. For now, though, all we can do is speculate, which I, for one, consider to be an opportunity. Let's have at it with some theories and observations that might help us shed light on who and what Ralsei is. First, I'd like to dispel the notion that Ralsei is Asriel. Not the idea that they have some unseen connection, I totally believe that, but the idea that they are literally the same individual. I'm sorry, I don't want to rub it in or anything, because I really respect that people are thinking about this game enough to come up with ideas like this, and I could always end up being wrong. But frankly, it just seems ridiculous. I have heard the idea that they are the same person being used to justify how Ralsei was able to exist in the cyber world without turning to stone, despite being from a different dark fountain. I even heard someone say that this is why the closet in the computer lab is specified to be large enough for a person, because it's foreshadowing that Asriel is hiding from you in there before the computer lab is absorbed into the dark world. No. The idea that Asriel is running around town trying to stay ahead of you to maintain his cover as Ralsei and that no one has seen him is one of the goofiest things I can imagine. Now there is a connection. I mean, their names are anagrams, and that's no coincidence, and I thought it was very interesting that when Ralsei deigned to make a room personalized for Kris, it ended up looking only like Asriel's side of the room. But that still leaves us with the question of the nature of this connection, if they are different people. And if you want the answer, don't fixate on Asriel, because you're missing what's right in front of you. Look at Kris. Ralsei's very existence seems to be tied to Kris in some way. How exactly, we don't know enough to say yet, but I never let that stop me. We know that Darkners are manifested from things in the light world, objects. Given that Ralsei is awfully similar to someone so close to Kris, I'd say that Ralsei was born out of Kris's subconscious, or at least that's where part of him originates. Now, I've heard a few interesting ideas about what this might mean, like that Ralsei is Kris's ideal self-image. We hear an anecdote from Toriel about how Kris wanted to know when their horns would grow in, and it's easy to imagine Kris feeling like an outsider in a family full of goats. Ralsei certainly could pass for Asriel's younger brother. This all might seem a bit far-fetched, but it's hard for me to imagine Ralsei's similarities to Asriel don't have something to do with Kris. Now, we know that Darkners are manifested from light world objects, and something to consider is which one Ralsei may be associated with. Ralsei is a lot different from other Darkners. We'll get more into that later, but I just want to point out that we don't know for sure if he actually did manifest from an item. But let's assume he did for now. There are two likely candidates that I've heard. One is the goat horns that Kris used to wear, which, as I said earlier, Toriel has a story about. They are stated to be pinkish, and Ralsei's horns do appear conspicuously pink. There's some merit to this theory, but before we get into that, I'll mention the other item people mention, that Ralsei is Kris's knife. I think the horns are a lot more likely. For starters, Ralsei does not leave the dark world. He builds your rooms while you're gone between chapters 1 and 2. That means whatever he is, he can't have been used during any of the nighttime antics that Kris has been up to, like opening dark fountains, perhaps, or even stealing a pie. Toriel does wonder where those horns went, implying that they've been missing for quite some time, which aligns with the fact that as naive as Ralsei is, he doesn't seem to have literally been born yesterday. He's been there for a while, and never left after you did. How did those horns get to the dark world? I have no idea. I doubt they were in the school supply closet. and Ralsei seems connected more to the true Dark Fountain that Castletown is built around. Let's get back to what I mentioned earlier, that Ralsei is considerably different from the other Darkners we've observed. It is stated that Darkners were meant to serve Lightners, but Ralsei is the only one we have witnessed who seems to have taken this to heart. Now, there are plenty of other Darkners who decide to help you, but they only do it as a choice, for reasons such as you being nice to them, not because they see it as some kind of natural order or anything like that. Maybe Ralsei being isolated has made him believe more old-fashioned values of the Dark World, or maybe he just hasn't been exposed to all the resentment towards Lightners that seems to have built up. Something else about Ralsei is that despite his naivety, he seems to have remarkable knowledge of worlds both light and dark. Some have seen this as a contradiction, maybe a sign that he's putting on an act to be our fan favorite fluffy boy while scheming behind the scenes, but it could just be that he's what you'd call book smart. The question is, where's the book? Ralsei's knowledge of both worlds of Deltarune seems absolute. While there are other characters aware of, say, the prophecy, he knows some things that it doesn't seem like he should. For starters, right off the bat, he calls Kris and Susie by name before they get a chance to introduce themselves. This is not something to take lightly, and Lancer doesn't even know Kris's name for such a long time after they've met. So how did Ralsei learn it? There's also the fact that Ralsei tells you exactly where to find your inventory as well as the population of Card Kingdom, which is odd when you consider that they are in the light world. How did he know where they were? How did he know the specifications of Kris's room? Now, Queen knows a thing or two about the light world, but her knowledge is entirely drawn from the internet. That's her connection, and her perception is limited by that narrow scope to such an extent that she thinks Lightners are huge fans of traffic because they look it up so much. What else do you think Ralsei knows about the light world? No one even told him there was a portal in a school, and yet he knew to go east. The whole reason he wants to close Dark Fountains is apparently because too great of an imbalance will invoke the Roaring, which will destroy both worlds. The issue is that, unlike his original prophecy, no one seems to have ever heard of this. The only reason you have to fight Queen in the normal route of Chapter 2 is because Ralsei didn't tell her. And sure, you might say that Ralsei had no reason to believe that the Queen both hadn't heard of the Roaring and would believe him about it, but that brings us back to why, with stakes that high, Ralsei's trusted friends hadn't been informed of this either. He endangered the entire world by not telling his friends about this immense danger until the last second. Why would he hold his cards so close to his chest? It seems that Ralsei has a habit of not readily volunteering information despite his immense knowledge. No one else seems to be aware of the danger of becoming a statue in non-native dark worlds. I'm not surprised Lancer doesn't know better, but it's weird that Rule's card didn't. Interesting how the only one who seems to be immune to that effect is also the only one who seems to know anything about it. Don't worry, we'll be addressing Ralsei's immunity to this petrifying effect later. The question I raised earlier is where Ralsei gets all this information that few to no others seem to be privy to. Was he just spawned out of the fountain, knowing that Kris would have to go east after the events of Chapter 1 to retrieve the population of Castletown? Is someone informing him of these events? Is there some greater force we haven't seen that Ralsei is operating for? For all we know, he spends all his time off-screen gazing at a crystal ball. Either way, it speaks to some unnatural source of information. I'm not saying Gaster. Please don't think I'm saying Gaster. I'm just saying that there's probably something else going on. One thing I noticed about Ralsei right at the start is that he has a very different knockout stance than the other two party members. When Kris and Susie are knocked out, they fall down, Susie kneeling, Kris sitting, but Ralsei collapses into clothes like Ben Kenobi being disintegrated. Now, I have no idea what to make of this. For all we know, this would happen to any Darkner. The fact that he's the only Darkner who's ever been in our party, makes this inconclusive. Sample size of 1 and all. It's really weird though. Something very conspicuously weird that indisputably separates him from other Darkners is something I mentioned earlier. And one of the most suspicious things about him, and something that people bring up pretty much anytime they talk about how suspicious Ralsei is, and that is the fact that he is freely able to travel to Cyberworld unhindered by any petrification. How did he get to this dark world? He says something about feeling a disturbance, but did the fountain only open just then? More importantly, how did he traverse to this place? Now, some people say that this is because Kris is holding on to the item that he manifested from, which is certainly possible that Kris has just been holding on to that item the entire time without our knowledge. After all, that little scoundrel had a knife without us knowing at any point in Chapter 1. Whatever the case, we don't know why. Ralsei doesn't tell us why, and it's really weird. Best I've heard is that it's because he's from the Master Fountain, where Darkners from any other world can safely reside. Likewise, any created from that fountain can go anywhere else. Not sure though. Some have gone as far as to speculate that his immunity to petrification is because he outright isn't even a Darkner. That would be very strange. Other people have identified him as one, most notably the Queen, who pretty much ignores him because she can't use him to open fountains. And of course he has a portrait with color, which seems to exclude lighteners. Either everyone is mistaken and the interface itself is lying to us, which, to be fair, wouldn't be unreasonable to expect of Toby Fox, or he truly is a Darkner, just an unusual one. We've also seen shades of an identity issue of some kind during the Tunnel of Love ride. He says he doesn't know what it means to be Ralsei. This does hint that he's playing some kind of role. What that entails though beats me. It could mean he's operating under false pretenses and pulling the wool over our eyes, but it could be as simple as the fact that he's simply playing out his part in the prophecy unquestioningly without assuming his own identity. Another strange thing is that whenever he pulls the "let's think about what Susie is doing" routine, you cut back to him in the tail end of a weird conversation with Kris. Some have speculated that he's actually instructing Kris on something that has to do with opening more dark portals. Whatever the case, putting the player's eyes in another area could show some awareness of the player and a desire to be outside of our view, alone with Kris. Something else that hints at a weird relationship between the three of us, Ralsei, Kris, and the player, is that after the Spamton Neo fight, Kris loses their composure and just screams. Bear in mind that this is after we cut the strings that were puppeteering a guy who encouraged Kris to seek freedom, and upon reaching that freedom, he immediately died. What does that tell Kris? The person whose actions are controlled by some unseen power. Kris, who is only able to shamble like a zombie after severing our connection. The reason I bring this up in the context of Ralsei is that despite his usual compassion, instead of talking about it, he basically says, "Don't worry your pretty little head about it, Kris. Just think about how fluffy and cute I am." I'd been slightly suspicious of Ralsei before, but this was the moment that convinced me that I'm probably not just reading too much into it. There's some easier explanations than Ralsei having some ulterior motive. He is, after all, pretty goal-oriented and very fixated on solving the broader issue of the fountain, so maybe he just wanted to snap the team back into shape. Or maybe he is just naive enough to think that's the only proper avenue to cheer Kris and Susie up. But I don't know, it came off as awkward. I think he doesn't want Kris thinking about the player's role in all this. Why? I don't know. I did get an interesting comment that suggested that Ralsei is actually trying to defend the player, to endear Kris to us instead of trying to break the connection, and that would be a very interesting turn of events. Before we get into the final theories and conclusions we can draw, let's take a look at various subtleties about him. Ralsei's outfit in this chapter is obviously a lot different. I wonder if this is just a change in wardrobe or if it means something greater. The heart on his tunic is now an inverted spade, a very subtle detail. But whether it has any thematic significance or if it just means Ralsei is the only person to wear more than one set of clothes, I don't know. Speaking of his wardrobe, is the hat really the reason his face is dark in Chapter 1? I've been wondering about this for a while. A lot of artists have interpreted the black fur we saw in Ralsei to simply be the result of the shade provided by his hat. But I don't think a wide-brimmed hat is enough for his fur to go from snow white to jet black. I know it's a pixelated game and all, don't think I'm crazy, please, but I think there's something more here. We're obviously meant to pay attention to detail. Notice how at the end of Chapter 1, he rubs his face for a while when he's taking his hat off, to this extent that Susie even says something about it. Maybe he's just awkward. He does mention that he was afraid to show his face when he met the team, but it could be some kind of disguise or something. I don't know, it's a reach, I'll admit. Something else is that he used to frown when ordered to attack in Chapter 1, now he does not. Toby Fox wanted people to think about the small details in the sprite work, so this doesn't seem like an oversight. Maybe he learned his lesson after fighting the king, that sometimes fighting is necessary, although now that you mention it, despite always stressing how to avoid fights in Chapter 1, he does tell you how to get stronger by betraying the trust of enemies you've recruited without any words about how cruel or unnecessary this is, which is a bit strange and not at all how he talked about the very notion of fighting in Chapter 1. I have no doubt that Ralsei is being genuine enough when he expresses his care for Kris and Susie, and I doubt he wants to hurt anyone. He even says that yes, you do have to get around to helping Rule's Card of all people during the Snowgrave route. But that doesn't mean he's entirely honest, and as we've seen, he's hardly forthcoming with important information. This points to the notion that he could have some kind of plan we don't know about. Some have gone as far as to say they suspect he will turn out to be straight up evil and will become the villain. The reason he wants you to recruit enemies, it's like Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. He wants you to take the enemies alive to integrate them into his kingdom. Or maybe despite his warning about the Titans, he wants to open more fountains because he loves Kris so much and wants to give them a steady flow of fun adventures by opening more fountains. I doubt Ralsei is evil. First of all, he'd be kind of a pathetic villain. Nothing could make Ralsei intimidating. Second, it probably would be a retread of Asriel. Third, I just don't think Toby Fox is the kind of writer to go, and he was secretly evil the whole time. I don't think he likes to portray pure evil to begin with, which certainly wouldn't preclude Ralsei from being an antagonist, but I don't think he would put up a fight against Kris and Susie. I also don't think he is building some kind of Outer Heaven-esque dark empire. Doesn't seem like the residents of Castletown are being impressed into some kind of army. That being said, it does seem like the Lonely Prince's quality of life has drastically improved with each fountain we've plugged. So while I doubt it's anything as on the nose as forming an evil empire, I would not be surprised if he had some selfish motivations for what he's been doing. I also think he is aware of the player in some capacity. Aside from the things I've already mentioned, consider one last thing. How did the town end up being named after you? The resident prince of all people should know. Going forward, it looks like Toriel is going to be in the next chapter's Dark World, so we can probably expect an interesting reaction to Ralsei out of her.